If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at Typing When Tipsy. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
Well, there you have it. I had my Carrie Bradshaw moment. Think less walking through Central Park and more when she wakes up in the 20-year-old's apartment and using coffee filters as toilet paper. You just can't have it all. But you know what I don't have? A career I can sink my teeth into. Welcome, everybody, to Typing When Tipsy. It's the very first show, and that was a little piece from my blog, Espresso by Day. This show is kind of going to be about just everything in life and where we're at and being close to 30 but still in our 20s and thinking we're adults when we're clearly not. So we're going to have a bunch of different people on here, some friends, hopefully some fun people to kind of talk about what we're doing with our lives and how we're fucking things up every single day. The first person I'm going to have on is our wonderful producer and my lovely boyfriend most days, Mike Mercado.
Breaking the fourth wall. I had no idea I was going to be a guest. I literally thought I was only producing the first episode. Okay, well, I guess I'm a guest. Hi.
Hi. This is what's going to happen often, people. So if you're coming over for dinner, chances are you're ending up on the podcast.
Wow, I swear to God, guys, this is not a work. I had no idea I was going to be a guest. I literally thought it was just pressing play and finishing off my fantasy draft work that I was doing. Cool. Yeah, that was actually a lovely, but obviously I was listening. That was a lovely open to the show. So cool. I'm excited to be a first guest on this. I guess I'm a good guinea pig. So what exactly can people expect? Like what kind of questions and stuff while we do this?
So I think that what we're going to do is I wanted to talk to you first because you and our friend Sergeant Andy are very similar in the sense you guys kind of knew at least the arena that you wanted to be in growing up. And I think we had a very different kind of growth period where I knew I wanted to write, but I was told very often by many different people that it just wasn't a lucrative career and I should come up with a plan B. The problem is my plan B became my plan A and I was just miserable for most of it.
Right.
So kind of taking those steps when we met and deciding I was going to change that around and do things. And a lot of it was kind of the tough love pep talk from Mike Mercado of you can either buck up or shut up. And,
Right.
you know, and I think it had a lot to do with having a very supportive partner who was like, that's cool. We're going to have $40,000 in debt. Let's just add it on and figure it out afterwards.
Right.
So, but you had a very different kind of thing. I think you wanted to be more into entertainment and you like to entertain people. I feel like you have this kind of thing about you, especially since you do radio and you talk to people and you interview people where you can get a lot out of them and you also enjoy doing that. It's like gives you that spotlight in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all looking for an opportunity to shine. I mean, I know it's kind of lame, but we're always looking to be like the most popular person in the room. I know a lot of people don't, pretend to be cool that they don't, but like everybody wants to be liked. I think for me, it wasn't always that easy. I just so happened to be pushed in the right direction,
Yeah.
Like I wasn't 18 years old. I wasn't 13 years old thinking I was going to do media. I didn't.
But did you think
idea.
you were going to do entertainment in some way? Like, did you have that kind of bug?
I always wish I had talent to like sing or like act or anything like that. But
I've seen your acting skills, Michael. It's up there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm no thespian, but I could pull a little Channing Tatum acting at a level kind of stuff. But no, I mean seriously, like I always felt more comfortable just talking. Like if you listen to the shows here on the network, like it's. A lot of it I like to kind of go off the cuff.
Yeah.
And if you listen to like Alex, he's very much structured.
Yes.
He likes everything to be, and like it. That's what makes his show work. Mm-hmm. You're very much more loosey-goosey. You kind of like to go with the flow of what the show is. And that works for somebody like me. I could do both.
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard for a lot of people. But for me specifically, like, you know, doing this was more for, you know, getting into this. It was more, I didn't want to do a 9 to 5.
Right.
You know, I didn't want to do a desk job. I didn't want to do back-breaking labor, not because I don't want to do labor, but, you know, I think you have to live up to sometimes people's expectations. And my grandparents' expectation, my parents' expectation was not to do the same things they did.
Right.
Not sacrifice the same stuff they had to sacrifice. Make my own different types of sacrifice to make my own type of success. So I have friends that are construction workers.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of them. They make great money, support their family. That's the path was meant for them and that they excelled in. For me, my path just so happened to be somewhere where, you know, going to the movies is part of my job. Waking up early, though, is the sacrifice you make.
Right. And I think that's a really good point to make, is that there are sacrifices you make in anything, especially in being part of this kind of media entertainment lifestyle. Anything where you have to entertain somebody with your words in some way or another, I think you're going to there's sacrifice, right?
I think entertainment is an interesting word because I understand it's supposed to be entertainment because we're supposed to be a distraction of your normal life. The problem is I don't inherently think I'm entertaining.
Right.
Do I think I can make somebody laugh? Sure. Do I think I can make a good point come across? Sure. Anybody can. Like that's humans are fascinating. People come up with great points all the time. People come up with funny shit all the time. I think for me it's more I get to scratch that itch of human interaction and getting to learn somebody's, you know, person more than anything. You know, I love doing interviews for, like, let's say the UFC, but a lot of my interviews never really are the game, you know, about breaking down the fight. It's more about just like talking for 5-10 minutes. And Outreach Radio has taken a different turn in that aspect. It's not just about what we're talking about, it's what we're talking about. Like, how are we talking about it? Why are we talking about it? Why aren't we talking about other things? So it's just one of those things where we don't. It's too easy for me to tweet my opinions, and it's a bigger challenging exercise to talk to somebody about it. And that's what I get. I love getting out of it. It's like being able to do that.
Yeah, no, that makes. I mean, I get that. I think it's interesting that I look at it as one way and you look at it another way, but I think that's kind of what makes, just in general, like you said, humans interesting, is that we look at things and we can see the same piece of paper, but I can see it one way and you see it another. So do you think that when you decided that you wanted to get into this industry, like seriously, where you wanted to make money off of it, did you have that, what I call my Carrie Bradshaw moment, where you're just like, where the fuck is this going and what am I going to do?
No. I mean, yeah, you should. Like, you probably should. But no, I didn't. I just kind of, it came to me one day, you know, I'll never forget the date. It was November 14th, 2014. November 18th, 2014. I got a phone call from my general manager, and he's a diehard sports fan, so everything is a sports analogy and correlates to sports. And basically, you know, not verbatim, it's been, 5 years since, but he basically said, like, sometimes we got to make sacrifices on a team and we got to cut people. So I'm sitting there like, oh man, I can't believe I lost my job already. Damn. And, one of the other guys was let go, and I was brought in to be their full-time board op producer, and eventually everything to do with their outreach community and so on and so forth. And the rest is history. And, it's so funny. Like, I'll never forget that day that it happened. But what was the
Carrie Bradshaw moment?
The one to make money. So yeah, like that. I wasn't sitting there thinking, okay, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna get this job. This is how it's gonna happen. I really just, in this industry, you just never really know.
Yeah.
And it's a moment like that. Like, it never comes from, sitting there and be like, I'm gonna work for ESPN. It's like, if you want to work for ESPN, you got to take a lot of different paths and ways to work for ESPN. That's just how it is.
So how did you decide that you were going to go into radio to begin with? Because, I mean, that kind of was a pretty swift turnaround, wasn't it?
No, I mean, so it was around 2011, 2010. I had flunked out of community college, and I was partying a lot. It was right around the time where taking pills and drinking and just enjoying it was the way I enjoyed that time of my life. And there was just specific days that I remember just kind of hitting that rock bottom. And one day we heard a commercial for the school that I ended up going to, a trade school. It used to be called Illinois Center for Broadcasting. Now it's Illinois Media School. And I basically became one of those things where I was like, I like talking sports. Yeah, I like doing this. And went in, did an orientation, did a quick test, and, I liked it. And even then I almost flunked out. Even then, like, it was an adventure. It was a hustle. It was not a guarantee. Like, I wasn't. I think why at 28 I'm so much more appreciative now than I was then is because I realize how any moment back then, one left instead of a right, one right instead of a left, changes everything. We're probably not doing this. We're probably not together. Like, life is completely different if I don't go down that turn. And I'm not saying that the other way wouldn't have just been as lucrative or great or anything. It's just I liked where it went down now. So it's like you wonder how easily and why are you the deserving one? Like, I went to school and class with some of the most talented people, and the fact that so many of them don't get the opportunity,
right?
It's fascinating, and I don't take that for granted that I get that opportunity.
So you do this obviously with your day job as board op producer and all of that. So what made you think it was going to be a great idea to work with me and Alex and do all of these additional shows so that you're editing at 2:00 in the morning?
To be honest, I hate talking to myself. I hate it. And if you listen to any of my shows, maybe when I was younger, when I first started, I had just so much pent up stuff I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
But now, I so much rather have a conversation and bounce things off of people. I love arguing with Alex. I love bouncing stuff off of you. I love hearing you two argue. I just feel like people don't want to hear one voice. People want to hear people talk, and so do I. And honestly, I love learning how to listen to people. It's one thing to hear a person speak. It's another thing to listen to somebody.
Oh, absolutely.
And I always feel like that's one reason why our shows and outreach have gained traction is because I have a list of questions I would like to ask, and then that becomes more of an outline or a safety net. Because at that point now, I'm just listening to the conversation. We're going wherever the conversation's going.
Right. And
that's what makes it very real. Like, right now, like, there's no bullet points to this. It's just a conversation, and that's why it feels very, podcasty.
You don't know my bullet points.
Well, you might be asking questions, but it's like, to me, like, I never sit to have an agenda about speaking about things.
Right.
Like, to me, it's just all about wherever the conversation is going. And sometimes I just ramble, just how my brain works, because I have a million thoughts that I want to get out, and my mouth isn't fast enough.
No, I think that's, it's funny because we're in these, I guess they're a type of art, both sides, and it's creative on its own level. So do you think that I think sometimes watching you kind of work and kind of figure out what you're going to do and how things are going to work is so different than my kind of creative expression and things that I need for myself. So I need to express things in a specific way, and when you're working, it's like you go into the zone and nothing can bother you. And when I'm working, I need complete silence. I want no one near me. And we're both so in our own different ways. But do you see more of a difference now than you did before with your own creative flow because you have someone to kind of compare it to?
You know what? I never really try to compare myself to you. I think we're two different animals. Like, we're two totally different species. I think you're much more of a go-getter than I am. I think you run at a much faster speed than I do. I don't rush for anybody or anything. I obviously, that's not talking professionally, but like,
right.
If I mess up, I mess up. If it sounds great, it sounds great. The fact remains is I'm going to do it again tomorrow.
Right.
So as long as I'm able to keep doing it, I'm going to keep doing it. So, I think for me, I just need certain things to get my creative juices flowing. And once I do, it's all art. It's all creativity.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, as long as you put some form of professionalism in it and you try to get better every day, you know, that some days are better than others. And here's the other thing, too. It's like, yeah, if you compare yourself to the big names on whatever platform you're on, yeah, of course you're going to look like shit. Of course you're going to sound like shit. So did they. But compare your stuff with something from a year ago, 2 years ago. I do it all the time. I have to remind myself in a humble brag sometimes, because you're your hardest critic, to look how far you've come. Look how far everything has come. So, you know, I've never that's something like you should always compare yourself to your peers, but you should never compare necessarily the quality. Should never. I don't even know how to say, but work is all different.
Right.
You should never. Your quality of work ethic should be measured, not your quality of work itself. You know?
I think I find it interesting because I think you have a very specific way of expressing yourself, in the sense of, like, with your podcasts, with your editing and doing stuff like that. Whereas I tend to bounce a little bit, where I need to write but I can bounce between projects. But like yesterday, I needed a way to creatively express myself. So we had paint all over the bathroom because I needed that type of self-expression in that moment. So are there things that are your own, like, do you have those different types of self-expression? Are there things that you do that I don't know about?
Yeah. No, I do not live
in the cave.
Yeah, I do not walk around, you know, ice skating to Queen music as my relief. No, honestly, like, I think a lot of that stuff is all in our heads. This is just me speaking. I think, for me, I don't need to get into any place to lose myself. I could turn it on. Like, and that's not some people can, when the game is on, it's time to just turn it on. And you just kind of plow through it. I think it's great when some people have a creative release. I wish I had one. Like, I wish I could go outside and just stare at the bushes for 5 minutes and lose myself, or, you know, listen to whale sounds, and I'll find the next, find the next muse and stuff like that. But for me, like, I'm not lucky in that sense, but I consider it lucky that I don't need to, I don't need to go out there and express myself in a certain way. Like, expressing myself is what I do every day. Some days I'm happy, some days I'm sad, some days I'm more lethargic, some days I'm super energetic, and it's all recorded. It's always put down, and it's always archived. So, I think the biggest thing that happens for me is sometimes days get mixed in together because it's all kind of the same stuff. So that's kind of like the devil that follows you the most in an industry like this, is you can get lost in it, and you can get stuck in the routine because you have to get in a routine, because you have to produce the content because somebody else is producing more content than you, and you're not producing enough as it is. So there's a lot of anxiety in it, but at that point I'm like, look, it's going to happen or it's not. That doesn't change the amount of work you put into it. You just got to keep working hard.
Do you think you work better with that structure? Or because I've noticed, like, with my stuff, that if I don't have, like, when Katie and I were working on the first, like, drafts of the edits, I knew I had to have it done by a certain day because we had to go over it. And that helps me focus, because otherwise shit just doesn't get done, because somehow days get away from me and they all meld together in this weird kind of format. Do you think, because we have a show coming out this day, we have a show coming out this day, they need to be out by this time at the latest, that it helps you kind of function better, and that if you didn't have that kind of time frame, that you would not be able to produce the way that you do? Or did you give yourself that?
You know what? It's funny because, like, I guess when you work in this business, you're used to just hitting times and not having a lot of time. So to me, like, I don't need... The structure is nice, but it's also mundane, and it also puts you in a weird routine. So I'm always kind of okay if one day, people want to record a day earlier or a day later.
Yeah.
I think for me, the one thing that happens is as you do this more, and your co-hosts are doing it more, and your lead hosts are doing it more, is that you don't have to edit as much. You don't have to be so on top of it. Then there's times where you're, just because you're human, you got to be more on top of it. You got to make sure things sound good and things are tight. But, it's weird. Like, it's weird. It is. Like, it's a weird,
kind of balance between the two.
Yeah, like, again, because it's so everyday. Like, I look at this Adobe, I'm looking at it right now, like, I see this screen every day of my life.
Does it like make you cringe sometimes when you see the minutes going up because you know that's just one more minute you have to listen to us talk?
Yeah, I do. And when it comes to that, like, I'm a procrastinator because I can get stuff done really fast.
Yeah.
But I can only, let's say this, like, if I need to edit a segment down from a show that's already been aired and I need to make it sound good, throw some new music on it and put it on the air and I only have 7 minutes to do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do those, edit a show in 7 minutes if it's 45 minutes long.
Right.
Because it's 45 minutes long. So you have to keep your notes and everything like that. Breaking the fourth wall, one of your biggest handicaps is
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
It kills a podcast.
I know it does.
I mean, it doesn't kill a podcast in the sense of takes the quality down, but what it does is there's a lot of unnecessary breaks. And a trick that you're taught in radio is instead of saying or and which is really easy to fall into, is to take breaks. To segment your sentences.
Okay.
Because that way you're constantly able to get your thoughts together. And if you listen to me talk, like right now, because we're in a conversation, I'm able to really digest my thoughts and put sentences together. When I'm very excited or I'm passionate about a subject at the moment or a segment, you start stumbling over your words. You start trying to get sentences together. You start thinking about the next thing you want to say. So that's where it starts stumbling. So for me, my biggest thing was and
Yeah.
And it happens a lot when there's a lot of opinions. Because it's hard
because you're trying to convince someone in your
Exactly.
sentence about what you believe.
So you're constantly going to that trigger word. So it's always weird things like that and random corrections that you have to make. And for me, I get tongue twisted a lot. If people haven't seen pictures of me, I have like 2 buck teeth.
He does not.
So my tongue goes a certain way opposed to another. And I have, like I should have braces. It's just weird little things like that. And English technically was my second language, even though it isn't, but it isn't. So like my words just get mixed up and like my brain.
I feel like a lot of times you're talking faster than your brain is necessarily catching up with you. Yeah. So I feel like it has a lot to do with that because you have 75 things that you want to say, and you're also especially with Alex, it gets worse because you both are trying to make your point before the other one can and louder than the other one can. But it's just that idea of that brotherly kind of, I do it with my siblings all the time. Whoever talks louder, whoever talks faster is the one who's right.
But here's the thing. When it comes to the show, you have to be willing to understand that nobody likes hearing people talk over each other. So a lot of times I don't try to talk over you guys during shows anymore.
Yeah.
And you actually hear you two do it a little bit because it's not something you guys get to practice every day. Like I have to practice it every single day, but that's a practice in speaking and listening that people should all try in their life is try not interrupting people. Try listening and letting somebody finish their sentence. Like it's unbelievable how many times somebody won't let you finish a sentence in real life.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. Like people are always just waiting for their chance to say something.
Well, and I think that was my first feedback when I first heard your podcast with your brother. Is my first thing is I came in the room and I was listening to you guys and I was like, you cannot talk over each other. And it's something that automatically, but it was a different dynamic because now your brother was there. And so it was like you fall into those very natural, habitual conversation types. And I've noticed that and I try to stop now. Like, so that's why I think when we're in the podcast, sometimes I'll be talking and then Alex comes in and then all of a sudden I go silent. And it's because I'm trying to not talk over anybody because I know it makes things a lot harder for you as a producer and editing and kind of going through things. And also it makes it so that nobody can really hear us when we're talking. And that's got to be frustrating when you're trying to hear what's happening and you don't see us, you're not in front of us. So you can't really get those dual sounds because it sounds bizarre. But in my mind, the way it works for me is that you're here and you're 3D, you're a real person. And when you're here with 2 3D people, your brain is allowing you to kind of get info in this ear and then info in your other ear. When you're in a podcast, it's all going to the same space. You can't separate the two. So it's this kind of strange thing that happens where nobody's being heard and it sounds like a mash of voices. Yeah, for sure. But I think that that's something in general I've tried to do, and I think it's so funny because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I know you do as well, and you listen to a lot of live ones. And I don't necessarily think I think the you knows happen a lot in those podcasts. Yeah. And I think it's because podcasts just in general are more of it
falls into a conversation.
Right. It falls into a conversation. I also think it's like an oopsie and like it's no big deal because everyone knows it's live. But I feel like that's also part of just your radio, like how you work.
Oh, yeah.
That it's like ultra annoying.
Well, I learned how to give the news on radio.
Right.
I learned how to give traffic reports on the radio. I learned how to give news breaks on the radio. Like, you see? Like that I like it's because we're in the middle of a conversation, but I would never say that on a report.
Right.
And that's just one of those weird moments of getting comfortable.
Yeah.
And when I record an outreach episode, it's not the same as recording a Good Brothers episode or a Murder Mysteries and More episode. It's not the same as recording a Typing When Tipsy. It's not the same. I can't just say fuck for the fuck of it.
Yeah. Do you get like cringy when we curse? Because I feel like it's so natural to me.
I don't know what to rank our show. And here's the thing. In 2018, it's hard to rate anything.
Right.
Because what is fuck? What is shit?
Yeah.
What is the word I can't say? I obviously know the words you can't say. Like I know it.
We get in trouble for all the words.
But, that's literally, there's moments where you want to just let loose.
Yeah.
But you can't. Because there's certain responsibilities you have when you're on certain platforms.
Sure.
Right now I can say whatever I want. But then there's certain interviews that are going to go on the actual terrestrial radio. And they have to be tight-knit. They have to be as buttoned up as we possibly can make them. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of hard when you have people who work with you who have never been on terrestrial radio.
Right. Do you find it harder to switch those two things when you're going back and forth? Because we do curse a lot here, or at least I do. Actually, I think Alex is way better about it than I am. I think I drop a lot of F-bombs.
You do. Alex is subtle, though.
Yeah, I curse a lot, but I curse a lot in real life. So it's not like... It's very natural. Anyone who hears me and knows me knows that that's just how I speak. And it's funny because when I was a kid, my mom used to tell me it was like a sign of unintelligence. And later on, they came to show that it actually is not.
I think that's a BuzzFeed article. I don't think that's real.
No, I'm pretty sure it's real. But
okay, sure.
It's not fake news, Michael.
Yeah, no, totally.
But the thing is, it's one of those things where it is a kind of form of self-expression. But
sure.
I feel like when I'm around it more, like especially when I'm around my family who curses a lot, I curse more. I just fall into that habit. So do you ever find yourself where or is it just an automatic, like your brain already knows how to kind of switch those functions?
I mean, I guess for me, it's just, I'm a robot when it comes to it.
Yeah.
So I just know when I'm talking to somebody, when I don't and can't and won't. I think a lot of it comes down to you just better know better. Yeah. Otherwise... oopsie, there goes your job. Like it's one of those, you better not mess up. It's second memory, you better not mess up.
ScienceAlert.com. So obviously it's real. Swearing is actually a sign of more intelligence, not less. Say scientists.
Which scientist?
The point is that they're scientists, and it's not a BuzzFeed article.
What else you got to interrogate me for?
Not interrogate you. I just think it's very interesting because we're both creatively different, but we're in not completely similar, but I would say a lot of media is similar in its own sense because it's a form of self-expression. So I wanted you to be the first one on here to kind of see the differences, but also see how we've kind of created this own platform for ourselves to be a part of. I know I am not that I'm much more willing. I think you're much more patient with us in your wheelhouse than you would be patient in our wheelhouse, because like when we were talking about like creating a project together, I feel like that would be a lot more frustrating for you working with me in that capacity opposed to working with me in this capacity.
No, because I'm not the expert in that field. So if we were ever to write a book together, it doesn't fall on me in the sense of who is the one that was the expert in this. The podcast sounds bad. That's directly on my hand. I'm not the author in the relationship. So to me, like if I'm comfortable doing what I do for a living, I'm comfortable doing anything because I'm not getting paid for it. So like I get a sense of like loosey-goosey of it. It's like I'm not if it doesn't go well, nothing bad's going to happen.
Right.
And I even think that about my own career. So it's like I'm not like it doesn't that stuff never bothers me. And also I think a lot of people think that it's easy, and I can see how it is for some people, but like to me, it wasn't hard to not have an ego. Like this network started with literally me doing 30-minute shows and eventually getting interviews and throwing some outreach on there. And, you know, it grew and grew and grew, and then eventually bringing in you. And I remember when you and Alex didn't want any part of it.
Yeah.
And eventually just think about it. Now you guys have your own shows.
It made me so nervous the first time that we recorded in the second apartment that we were in. I think it was the second apartment in the city, and we had that very brief interview, and I was so nervous. And now I feel like it's very natural for us to sit here and talk into microphones and kind of listen to your cues, and because not that we listen to the cues half the time and we still get in trouble for it, but the point is that we see your cues, we just choose to ignore the cues.
Yeah,
but
I believe it.
But now it's like noticing them, knowing what they are, opposed to the beginning where I was super nervous. And I don't know how Alex was. He might have been too, but I think it's that idea of you almost feel like you're talking to nothing when you first do it, because even though there's somebody there and you're talking to them, you're like, you know, this conversation is going to be heard by everyone else. So you kind of watch what you say in a way, because you feel like, oh, this is just a conversation between us, but not really, because there's going to be people who listen. And do I want this plastered and all, you know what I mean, all over the place? Because once it's on the internet, it never really goes away.
No, it really doesn't. Like, that's the one truth.
Right.
And I like that, though, because all my work is always there.
Yeah.
Like, and whenever the world ends, like, as long as there's an internet, my work will exist. And
absolutely.
Kind of that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think you guys have done a wonderful job. And for me, it's kind of cool. I enjoy seeing the team grow. I enjoy seeing talent grow. And, you know, I think it's just, it's wonderful to, you know, see your baby grow, like just see what happens next. And, you know, there's no, can we get as big as something like Collider? Baby, can we stay this small? Sure.
Yeah.
Either way, though, I'm going to enjoy it. So I never, you know, that's just, you got to love what you do.
Yeah.
And love what you do.
I think the talent thing that you were saying, like watching it grow and just us being more comfortable, I don't think that if you would have asked me even like a couple months ago if I would be comfortable having these conversations and doing, like, kind of flipping it a little bit where I'm asking the questions and you're answering them. I don't know if I could say for sure that I would be, because it's all about that growth process that happens, and that it happens in every different kind of creative field. So I think that's really great. But I wanted to thank you for being my very first guest on Typing When Tipsy.
This was awesome. Yeah, I like what you got going.
Thank you. So
it might keep going.
It might keep going, guys, especially if I can convince people over for dinner and then lie to them and make them jump on the podcast.
Damn, we gotta have people over. Damn it.
Thank you guys so much. I so appreciate it. You guys check out all of our shows all over the Mercado Network. We are
Mercado Airwaves.
Mercado Airwaves, whatever. I'm not the producer here. This is why we have him to edit, okay? Yes, because obviously I can't be trusted.
Here it is.
We have so much fun putting out all of these shows, like The Good Brothers and Sports from the Couch and Murder Mysteries and more. And now we have Typing When Tipsy, and I'm very, very excited to see where this goes. But also, please check out all of our shows, like us, share us, comment, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like.
Pray for me as I edit all of these things.
I say a lot, so he has such a fun night ahead of him, people. While I am sleeping, he will be editing. So thank you so, so much. We look forward to talking to you guys next week, and I can't wait till you guys see what we bring out.
Yeah, this was fun.
Have a good night. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at Typing When Tipsy. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
another day at the office, I get to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones. Orlando, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
And all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.